Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And today I have another interview. And today my interview is with former AWA, NWA, and many other various promotions. He is also an actor. He's acted in many movies, and he is the only wrestler that was on the original Gong show. So he is also the original Mr. Wonderful. He is Rock Riddle. So we will wait until he gets on in here and then we will start. So again, we're just waiting for Rock to get in here, Rock Riddle, and then we will start. Okay, there you are. Okay, so I see that you are here, but again, it's like the last time when I had my previous guest, Princess Victoria. It is not giving me the option to bring you on the video. I see the comment, but usually I get a notification in the comments saying this person is watching, and then I have the option to bring them in the video. But it doesn't have that for you. And the problem with previous guests is because they were doing it off of like a computer or something like that. It usually only works off of like a phone or something like that to go live with somebody else. It works on a phone. Because the many other experiences I've had with guests that had like Chrome computers or laptops or such things like that, it didn't work. I couldn't bring them in. But then when they switched to their phone, I could bring them on in here. So Okay. Now it's letting me.
Well, how's that?
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me okay?
If I can hear you just fine.
Can you hear me? Okay, let's see what we have here.
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me. Or no, you cannot hear me. Yes, let's see what we have.
Kind of. You're just cutting out really badly.
Okay, well, it looks like we're going to need to reschedule, and you probably can't hear me saying that anyway. That's for sure. Okay. Not working. Not working. Not working. Hello, hello, hello. You cannot hear me. Okay, hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
I
Well,
can
this
hear
is
you
why
that
we always.
time.
You heard me?
Yeah,
Or you're hearing me?
just now,
Yes.
yeah.
Now you're hearing me. Oh, I am in this wonderful studio, and had we been able to go along with it, I have noise canceling software. I have beautiful images that will go on the green screen behind me. So I will just talk loudly, and we'll next time we'll do a sound check and a video ahead of time. How's that? Would you rather have me this way or this way? Vertically, horizontally? You're not hearing me, are you? Okay. Well, we could turn some of the lights off, I guess, since we don't need those. Well, maybe we do need them. Okay. And once again, you're not able to hear me, are you? Let's see what I can do here.
Yeah, you're just cutting out really badly.
Then guess what we're going to do? We will reschedule and we will test everything ahead of time. Otherwise, I don't see anything that we can do. Trying to rely on a self studio setup where I look even better than I do. Well, I look better in person, of course. So, if you had any viewers, you probably lost them by now. Hey, everybody, go to Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, the latest episode. And you will see me for 2.5 hours. You see, I was taking a step up to work with you right here. And with the marvels of modern technology, it's just not working. What can I tell you? If I hold this out further, then you can see more of me, but then probably the audio is even worse. So, any other ideas? Asking, Rock Riddle, how did you ever get to be so incredibly handsome? Oh my gosh, now we're serving one of the. Want to do that? I'll go back up here. Now tell me, is this the most fascinating show you've ever done, or what? You can't hear me. Okay. Oh, I heard a ha. So you must have heard something. So I'm not using the microphone. I can push that out of the way. See if I can see anything on here that tells me to do something differently. And no, it does not. See if I can do that. Do you want to stop going live? No, cancel. Why don't you work pro? Okay. Once again, I can't give you a nice video and be close enough for you to hear me since we're having problems with the audio. My suggestion is that we reschedule, do a test first next time. The software I use everywhere else. I use it on Skype. I use it on what's the other one? Zoom. Works everywhere else, and I don't know why it's not working on this. I also use the software on when I do Facebook Live, when I am projecting and doing. I do one every Wednesday night for Snake Pit Pro, which is Jake the Snake Roberts and Sin Bodie's podcast, video podcast. But I can't tell you why it's not working now. Dead air. Dead air is bad. But if you can't hear me, I'm going to go. I'm going to say, okay, we gave it a shot. It didn't work. So I'm going to be out of here. We have an excessive heat warning here in Southern California. We have lost the internet twice. So I think the phone is going through the internet, which should be okay. But how can I?
Yeah, I wasn't talking because he was cutting out.
Da, 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 da. Well, look at that. Direct state first, the only, the original. Mr. Wonderful of Professional Wrestling. But if you can't hear me, it doesn't make any difference. Not working, is it? Life.
Okay, yeah, now I can hear you.
Now you can hear me.
It must
What
have
up?
been my AirPods because I had them in and it was cutting out really badly.
Ah, I see. Well, can you see me okay? Let's see if I can put this somewhere where you can see me and also hear me. Oh, if I can lean that up somewhere. How's that?
That's
Working? Let's
good.
know. Good. Okay.
Yes.
And now we can start. Ladies and gentlemen, direct from his palatial estate, high in the hills of Hollywood, California, we present to you the first live and in person, the first, the only, the original Mr. Wonderful of professional wrestling. That's right, the diamond ring and Cadillac man, the man who possesses the body that men fear and women love, the intercontinental lover, the Rolls Royce of wrestling, four-time Hall of Famer, Rock Riddle. And if you think that was good, you should have seen it in the studio with a great background and the better sound and everything else. But at least you guys can hear me. Okay, let's see here. I've got some little reading glasses. This is incredibly tiny. That's got to be like 3-point font. The host just isn't talking. Hello, Kenneth. How the heck are you? And we've got Blake. And what questions do you have for me?
All right, so I'm going to start off by asking you, when did you start doing wrestling and what made you want to do it?
Okay. For the long version, go to Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw for the latest episode, I believe. And I go into really a lot of detail. However, I will tell you, when I was 14 years old, I heard about professional wrestling for the first time. I had heard the words, but I had no idea what it meant. I was in high school. I was a shy kid. I was a skinny kid. And the teacher had not come into the room yet, so everyone was talking about these two wrestlers, how horrible they were, and how they should be eliminated from the planet, not just the area of the country, which in my case was North Carolina. So I could not understand why anyone would hate these two wrestlers, Rip Hawk and Swede Hansen, why they could possibly, or how they could possibly hate someone to that degree. So this following Saturday, I'm sitting in the middle of my living room, watching the television. There is live, my whole computer system just crashed, by the way, but that's okay. We're not on the computer system. Or did it just, no, it did not. I thought it did. Because it would have been bad had we been live and had everybody been looking at me with all the changing wonderful backgrounds of spotlights on me, and maybe the ocean and a wrestling ring, etc. And they said, "Oh no, he's gone." Well, I had one crash today, and I believe that's because of the excessive heat. It's close to 100 degrees, which is not horrible for Southern California, but it's enough that, of course, the utility companies cannot keep up with it. To continue and respond to your question, I watched these two amazing professional wrestlers. I saw this guy with bleached blonde hair and tan, and he was cocky and arrogant and condescending, and I said, wow, finally I have a role model. Ta-da! I started a fan club for this guy since everyone hated him. And it would be the equivalent, I don't know who's hated today enough, but in history it would be like starting a fan club for the Attila the Hun fan club, the Adolf Hitler fan club, just fill in the name of anyone who's hated. But Rip Hawk and Swede Hansen were hated more. I had on my little fan club card, it says, fair, square, modest, and honest. Pretty cool. That's my sense of humor. I was at the Greensboro Coliseum in North Carolina, myself and my two friends. I had two little friends there, 14 years old, and I'm as close as I can get to the dressing room doors to see when the wrestlers come out, because that's always a big thrill for everybody, or I think for most people at least. Yeah. I was standing there, I had my little fan club card out, and the announcer came over and he says, what do you have there? I said, it's a fan, it's a card. He says, could I see the card? And before I could say anything, he had it in his hands. He says, oh, Rip Hawk fan club. Oh, I'll bring this right back. I'm going to go down to the dressing room and show Rip. And of course, I was terrified, because I did not do this with his permission. I had never met the man. He was my hero. But anyway, I was considering going out the closest exit, because I did not know if he would be upset or not. So he came up to me, to this skinny, 128-pound, skinny, ultra shy kid, and he says, hey, kid. I said, yes, sir? He says, this fan club thing. I said, yes, sir. He says, are you serious about that, kid? Well, because if you're serious, I'll help you. I'll get pictures of Sweden myself for you. I said, wow. Never expected anything like that to happen. A year or so later, I was in the Greensboro Coliseum again, and he says, hey, kid. I said, yes, sir. Because now I'm a little more confident. Now he's almost like a friend. He's been so good to me. He says, so what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, well, I don't have any idea. He says, you want to be a wrestler, kid? I'm thinking, well, gee, at that time, I would have had to gain 100 pounds of muscle to be one of the smaller wrestlers. So as I'm thinking that, he says, think you could do it, kid? I said, well, sir, he says, I think you could do it. So my hero said to me, I think you can do it. Everyone thought I was crazy. Everybody laughed at me, and I laughed at them because they did not understand. On my 16th birthday, I made the commitment. I will become a professional wrestler. No plan B. Failure was not an option. Never did I have any doubt at all that I would become a professional wrestler. It was like a foregone conclusion. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
5 years later, I went back to my old hometown where everyone laughed at me, but this time I was wrestling in the main event. I was wrestling a former world champion by the name of George Becker. I weighed 236 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal with an 18.5-inch arm, cold and natural. Had a little mini riot. A lot of stories I could tell you about that, but that's how I got into the wrestling business. I had a great epiphany, and I've always had an extreme sense of humor. As I'm thinking, I'm sort of daydreaming, I put myself in my head in a seat at front row ringside, and I asked myself, if I could see my ultimate hero, the ultimate professional wrestler in the ring, what would he look like? Would he have bleached blonde hair and a great suntan and beautiful velvet custom-made robes and wraparound sunglasses? Would he be cocky and condescending and arrogant like Rip Hawk? Would he have some of the wrestling ability of, say, Jack Briscoe, somebody like that, and some of the best in the world, and then the other 85% he would create? What would he call himself? He would be someone that cocky would probably call himself Mr. Wonderful. So I created the hero that I wanted to have. And my only regret in all of this time is that I was not. Let's get that out of the way. I just noticed that was in front of me. Sorry about that. You should have told me. Sorry to should on you. My only regret was that I was never able to sit front row ringside and watch myself in the ring. Usually when I tell people that, they laugh. And I say it with a straight face because I'm serious. That's how much a fan I was of this amazing person I had created and I had become. So that's a short version of how I became a professional wrestler. What else do you want to know from me?
Do you watch the business now? If so, who do you like watching? Or
I don't watch hardly any of it. Occasionally I will videotape or what is it? DVR. Occasionally it's automatically DVR'd, and occasionally I will take that show and put it on and fast forward through it. And if I see anything that looks interesting, I'll stop and watch it. And generally it takes no more than 15 minutes to watch a 2-hour or so show. And are there still quality wrestlers? Absolutely. Is old school better? Of course. Well, what do you think about Vince McMahon, Rock Riddle? I like him. He's a good guy. He's been very successful, and look what he's doing now. He's certainly has done things that have never been done before. Unfortunately, he had to destroy something in order to build what he built, and what he destroyed was professional wrestling. And then it became more of a soap opera, and it became, in many cases now, especially with independents, smaller promotions, it became a gymnastics recital or routine. It's like, oh, let's go see a gymnastics uh, program, or let's go see a dance recital. No, that's not why the fans are there. We are there to see professional wrestling. So, and people say now, well, gee, Rock, as a wrestler, I got all these things I can do, and I want to get them all in. It's not about you. It's not about getting stuff in. It's about going in the ring and wrestling. It's about if you and I were in the ring, if we are opponents, and if we're really, really good, let's say we have 17,000 people out there. We can stand them up, bring them to the edge of the ring, back them back, sit them back down in their seats at will. That is power.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So right now, here's what I unfortunately notice too much. I do color commentary for a wrestling program, and people who know me, they know what it is. It's a SoCal Wrestling channel on Roku. So you'll see me on there. And they've got a bunch of other channels too, but that's the one that comes to the top of my head. And I think that's, SoCalWrestling.tv, I think is the website, and that's where I normally go to watch it myself and pull it down, but it is on Roku and other places. And what I notice when I'm around different wrestlers, I put myself in the position of fan because I'm always going to be a fan. By the way, if I keep looking up here, that's where my camera is, but I realize here in the studio, these cameras don't mean anything right now because I'm doing this on my phone with horrible background. You can probably hear the air conditioning in here, etc. So sorry about that. Usually it is a totally professional show that I do. So let's assume that we are fans and we're sitting at a promotion, a night of professional wrestling. I'm talking to my friend, and we've never been to this one before. Here come a couple of guys. I don't know who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. I don't really care who wins. I don't see personality. I see them doing the same thing that the majority of the cookie cutter wrestlers do. And it's like, I look at my friend, I said, do you care about this? And my friend would usually say, no, hopefully it won't be too long and somebody afterward will bring something to us. And then maybe the next match comes and goes and it's not terribly thrilling. Oh, look at that move. Yeah, the move was unnecessary and did not mean anything, and this person did it simply because he had the ability to do it and wanted to impress himself and the other wrestlers. Well, that's not what it's for. It's to impress, entertain, motivate, stimulate a wrestling fan, a building full of wrestling fans. So here we are watching the third one. And my friend looks to me and she says, aren't those the two guys who wrestled first? They're doing the same things. They look alike. And I said, yes, now you've got it. They look too often. They look alike. They talk alike badly. They do the same stupid maneuvers over and over, and nobody cares. And if anybody in the audience starts saying boring, then the wrestlers are already moving so fast that the fans cannot follow the moves. So they panic and they say, oh, let's speed it up. No, slow it down. Well, Rock, if you and I were wrestling and the fans started saying boring, boring, what would you do? I said I would grab a headlock and sit down in the middle of the ring. Now I truly have that whole building angry at me because I just called their bluff and basically gave that message to them. Because if you know what you're doing, for the legends out there, for the veterans, for the people who've been at this for a while, the people who really are really, really good in the ring, that's our ring. That's my ring. I control that audience. Like I said, we have the ability to stand them up, sit them down, etc. at will. And then when I hear about people who are thinking, well, I wonder what I should do tonight, and I've got all these moves that look pretty good, I wonder what I should do. And if anyone ever asks me, I say, you have no idea what you're talking about. How can you possibly try to plan something in your head? Because when you go out there, why don't you just experience, listen to the fans? You're maneuvering them and they're guiding you. You can either take the guidance or you can continue maneuvering them. It's telling a story in the ring. It's white hats and black hats. I promise you, once I step through the curtain in a place where I've never, let's say, none of these people have ever seen me before. Never. Maybe nobody's heard of me. When I step through the curtain, I look down my nose at all of them like they really smell bad. I don't think I'm better than they are. I know I'm better than they are. It takes a few seconds. I've got them. I have that whole place hating me, wanting to see me get destroyed. Now, if I were the good guy, which I of course would be, but if I were, my perception would be this. By the way, let's do the bad guy thing for one more moment. I'm so old school, I still use the old terms. And anyway, so as I'm looking down my nose at these common scum, why do I have to even be here? I look in every, sorry, looking at the wrong camera again. I look at every section. When I do, I'll make eye contact with a couple of people. Those people know that I have just insulted them. However, everyone else in that section thinks I'm looking directly at them. And I will encompass that whole building in this attitude, and they will get it. They will absolutely get it. Now, if there were a good guy coming out, it was like, oh my gosh, how do I relate to the audience? I hope they like me. No, it's up to you. You want to be liked by the audience? Picture this. When you come out, just look at that arena and imagine this amazing amount of love, for lack of a better way of saying it, love that you're projecting and enveloping all of this arena, and feel that, experience that. And then when you look at each section, you make eye contact. And if you're that good guy and I'm the fan and you make that eye contact, I know you're looking at me, even if you're just looking at someone near me in the section, because you can't look at everybody. And then you make a little move, you give me a little sign. Oh my gosh, this person, I hope he wins. This person is great. What's his name again? Okay, I'm never going to forget that name. I'm going to really research this person, etc. Everything is psychology. Crowd psychology, human psychology, wrestling psychology. Everything is based on telling stories. There used to be a thing that people would say about movies, and especially like when I was a kid, they would have these R-rated movies at the drive-in. There used to be something called a drive-in theater. Yeah. So you would drive in and watch the movies. And I remember a friend of mine saying, man, I wish they just showed the good parts. And the reason that they don't just show the good parts is because it's boring. Well, I don't know. I think it would be pretty exciting. I don't know the boring. No, it's boring because there needs to be a story. Otherwise, we could just take a video of the greatest wrestlers in the world, of them body slamming, or let's just say body slamming. Here's 30 minutes of someone body slamming somebody else, and we've got 50 or 60 or 70 different people body slamming 50 or 60 or 70 other people. Well, that's incredibly boring, and I'm not going to watch it. Why? Because there's no story, there's no purpose. Every move that's done, from my never to be humble point of view, every move that's ever done in the ring must have a purpose, and it must be part of the story that we're telling. Oh, I don't know what a story is. Then you might want to try a different business. What else would you like to ask me? Otherwise, I can start asking myself questions.
Who were your wrestling trainers?
I trained myself. I am probably
Wow.
the only wrestler you will ever talk with or ever know of who trained himself. I have two black belts in two different forms of karate. I have a brown belt in judo. I studied a little aikido, and I wrestled high school and college. I studied the best of the best. I mentioned Jack Briscoe, the late and great Jack Briscoe, and I would watch him and I would say, wow, that's amazing. I think I can do that. Then in judo class, I would see if I could sneak that in, a little grappling maneuver. And a lot of the judo maneuvers look pretty good to wrestling fans. So I put all of these different things together. The first time, my first wrestling match ever, was the first time I had ever been in the professional wrestling ring. I was thrown into the ropes. My gluteus maximus, my backside went through the ropes. I had never hit the rope before. I'd never been in the ring before. Fell over on my head. Bam! The people in the ring went. Referee went. Fans went. There was so much adrenaline because this was the first time ever in my life that I was able to do what my life was designed to do, my first professional wrestling match ever. And I won. It was a tag team, and I was main event. And the people were very impressed with me. And for the continuation of that story, if you want to go to, again, Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw. Yes, on YouTube, and look at the Rock Riddle one. I think 1,130 some people have seen it so far in the last week. By the way, I did a press release about it because I'm a publicist. I do so many things well, and so many things I have no idea what I'm doing, but there are several things that I do well. And I checked just before we went live. That press release has ended up so far on over 308,000 websites.
Wow.
Pretty good stuff. By the way, since I don't have the little bug on the bottom, which would be down here somewhere, that says rockriddle.info, I guess I should mention rockriddle.info. Did I? Or maybe I should just say, you can always find out about me on rockriddle.info. Want to get in touch with me? I think there's a way to make contact on, come on, rockriddle.info. Yeah, okay. See, this is what it's all about. Life is about having fun. You are so lucky. You're a sophomore, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're in junior high school, or is it called middle school now? Is this a tough question? You're a sophomore
Junior
in high
high
school.
school? Yeah, I'm a sophomore.
You're a sophomore in high school. So you're young. You have knowledge. You are at the helm just like everybody else, but the fact that you are young now and you have everything up ahead of you, I just will tell you this, everyone else pay attention to, because these are universal truths. Yes, you can have it all. You are at the helm of your own ship. Yes, but I'm afraid I want to keep the ship in the harbor. Well, ships are not built to stay in the safety of the harbor. Everything is about risk. Without risk, there is no life. Every day above ground is a good day. Every day is an opportunity to make a difference and to lead by example. I think that's the best way to teach people, is to lead by example. And also, that's a great motivator. If someone would say, well, I feel so bad, I hurt, maybe I should start taking more of these pain pills. No, maybe you should understand that the pain that your body is telling you is there, it's your way of your body telling you that there's a problem. I don't want to block the pain. I want to know, oh, wait a minute, one of my fingers is missing. I'm glad I had the pain. Oh, it grew back. I'm glad that I had the pain. By the way, since I said it grew back, uh, that reminds me of something that I just discovered a few days ago. One of the greatest movies of all time, in my never to be humble opinion, is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's going to be in theaters again in the fall of this year. Everybody, download it, watch it, go to the theaters and see it. It will make your life better because it gives you insight into what life is all about. It's about having fun. And you don't have to be so serious. You can make, oh man, you can make such a difference in the world. Life is a series of challenges. That's what makes it worth living. Don't do
Yeah.
anything to hide from the challenges. Accept life and realize if, do you roller skate, by the way?
Roller skate? No.
Okay. Do you ice skate?
Sometimes during like the winter.
Okay. When you first learned how to ice skate, if the first time you fell, you gave up, you'd never learn how to ice skate. And the reality is, if you fall 20 times, get up 21. And every time you fall, you're getting better. Failure is a part of success. Also, what you think of me is none of my business. That's a really great philosophy. It's also the title of a book which I never read by Terry Cole Whitaker because this title said it all. So it's like if somebody out there doesn't like me, I don't care. I mean, it's not my problem. It's their problem. If I don't like them, that's my problem. And I would say to them, don't take it on. Well, I'm afraid somebody will say something bad if I say how I really feel. Fine. Yes, I come from a time. I've been on this planet for so long, especially talking to someone your age. I've been here so long that I can remember something that used to exist in this country. People really valued it. It's been gone for a long time now, and let's see if I can rack my brain and think of what they called it. I'm getting the letter F. Oh, I remember freedom of speech. Yes, there used to be something in this country called freedom of speech. That was, and once that was taken away, then that's why there's very few comedians anymore because everyone gets offended at everything. Oh, I'm offended by you saying that. Well, I'm offended that you're offended that I said it. Oh, I need a safe space. Now, quit being a wimp. Jeez. Start studying animals, see what they go through, see how they learn. Survival of the fittest, come on. We're talking about professional wrestling here. Anyway, so those are some of the suggestions I would make. I'll tell you something. I have many, many, many very highly successful friends. And if you define success by financial success, many friends worth tens of millions up to a couple people who I think have surpassed $1 billion in wealth. They all have a couple things in common. They all risk. Most of them have lost everything at least once. When they bounce, they don't give up though. When they hit bottom, they bounce back. If they were here, they're this level of success. They hit bottom, they bounce back to here. Hit bottom again, they bounce back so that you can't even see how high it's going. The other thing is that virtually, if not literally, all of them keep a journal. If life is worth living, it's worth writing down. So I'll give you one more since we're sort of talking philosophy. How we got onto this, I have no idea, but it's something that many people need to hear. Every night, of course, I write things down. And I wish I had written things down during all of my wrestling days because now that my book is almost ready, hopefully it will be by the end of the year or the very beginning of next year when it's published. And the short version will be simply wonderful. Copyrighted, don't try to steal it. Well, why would anyone want to steal your title? Because people are like that. They're mean. They're horrible. They're nasty. Oh, you look for the worst in people, don't you? Yes. It takes about 6 or 7 seconds if I'm looking for the bad in people to determine that there's no bad there. And I would rather do that and be pleasantly surprised than to think, oh, everybody's wonderful. Everybody, oh, what just went into my back? So anyway, I'm talking about the book, and I don't remember why I was talking about the book now. I was going to make this great philosophical point. Anyway, let's see here. Yes, you can have it all. Every day above ground is a good day. Challenges are part of life. Enjoy them. And no matter how, oh, I'll give you one more. This is a great one. And it will, as you get older, it will mean more. But if you can hear it now, no matter how old all the people are or how young they are out there. And I'll just use myself as an example. All of the pain, emotional, physical, and physical is a lot easier to endure than the emotional pain. All the pain I have experienced, all the loss, so many people, so many friends I've lost, all of the joy, all of the happiness, all of the fear, everything, the regret, everything I have had that I have experienced in my life was absolutely, totally necessary to make me the person I am right now. I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, I like that person. I truly like that person. I am my own hero. I am the president of my virtual fan club. I have no problem taking myself out to the movie or going to dinner by myself. And a lot of times, since I'm in Southern California, I have a home here and I have a home on the East Coast. And I usually drive between the two. Even though I'm a private pilot, I usually drive between the two. And I like doing that. And I drive alone. There's not even a passenger seat in my car. There's a refrigerator, freezer, and a generator, and all sorts of other stuff in there that's really super cool, I think. But I like being by myself. Does that mean I'm antisocial? Well, I don't know. Don't know if it does or not. But here's the point. Everything I've experienced has made me the person that I am. So therefore, if you have any regrets and you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I hope nobody finds out I did that. I feel so guilty about doing that. No, it had to happen so you could be the person you are right now. And whatever happened yesterday or last week or last month or 10 years ago has no relationship to what happens for the rest of the day or tomorrow or the day after that. So there you go. How's that, guys? Psychologist that I am. Well, hey, if you're in the wrestling business and you're good, you understand psychology. That's the big deal. That's the big deal. When I was a kid, when I was between 14 and 16, and especially once I decided I was actually going to be a professional wrestler, I would go into the bathroom and I would grab something that I would use as a microphone, like a hairbrush and something like that. And I would start doing, oops, again, looking at the wrong camera. I've never done this before. We've got the phone down here. But I would be looking there and say, and do my promo. And I got to the point, I remember the day that it happened. After I did it, I said, Rock. Put the hairbrush down, the representative microphone. And I said, Rock, you're better than the people who are main eventing. You're better than they are on the microphone. I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. I don't know what to tell you about that. I can tell you a few years ago, to give you an idea, I went to Empire Wrestling Federation, which is Southern California, and the promoter invited me to come down. I went in, they were doing promos, they were doing interviews, they were promoting upcoming events on camera, on the microphone. So when I went in, the promoter says, hey, Rock, we're doing promos. You want to do one? I said, yeah, if you want, fine. He says, okay, here's the microphone. He says, can you do 2 minutes? My response was, is a 5-pound canary fat? Of course I can do 2 minutes. These were the old style cameras. This must have been 15 or more years ago now, if I think about it, but certainly more than 10. They had the cameras that had the little cassettes in them for videotape cassettes.
Oh, yeah.
And no one said cut, so I continued my promo. A little over 17 minutes. So over 17 minutes later, they ran out of videotape. That reel ended. I never heard the word cut before, so I did until they ran out of tape, and they said, we're out of tape. I said, does that mean cut? Say cut, then. And then everybody stood up, standing ovation. And it's like, well, how do you do that? Well, you just decide that it's something you want to do, and you learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You think, what would motivate me if I'm watching someone doing that? What could someone say if I'm watching it that would make me want to go out and spend $50 for a ticket and drive for 2 hours to see this person in the ring? Ah, now we're talking. Now we're getting ideas. Yeah, anyway, give me more questions. Otherwise, I'll ask myself questions.
Who has been the stiffest wrestler you have gone in the ring with so far in your career?
Khosrow Hussein Vasiri, better known as the Iron Sheik. But that's a good story. And that story is on Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, the long edition, but I'll give you the very, very short edition. I had finished in Georgia Championship Wrestling. I wrestled there one night. I'm driving all the way to Chicago's International Amphitheater to wrestle there the following night. This was the AWA territory, which was Vern Gagne's organization. When I got there, there was a fellow in the dressing room of these major international superstar legendary names. My gosh, some of the biggest people ever. I'm not going to go into it now, but Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, you'll see it. And you'll got 2.5 hours of me there with Jerry Briscoe interrupting a lot because he thought it was funny. That's the kind of relationship we have. He is the person who nominated me for the last Hall of Fame into which I was inducted, and that was in July, so now 4-time Hall of Famer. In the dressing room, a fellow by the name of Stan Kowalski, otherwise known as the Big K. Stan says, who are you wrestling tonight? Welcome to the territory, kid. I said, well, I have no idea. Said, well, let's grab a program. Oh, you're wrestling Khosrow Vasiri, kid. Sit down. I got to tell you something. I like you. You're brand new here. You don't know. I need to. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't tell you this. This is Khosrow Vasiri guy. He is a sort of an a-hole, and so if he becomes like a vice, back him up over the top rope, hit him, and I mean hit him hard, and then he'll loosen up a bit, and you have a good match. I said, oh, okay. So went out. The first time I ever saw the Iron Sheik, Khosrow Vasiri, was as he was walking from one side of the building toward the ring, and I'm, of course, walking from the other side of the dressing rooms on my side, dressing rooms on his side, and as we're approaching each other, the wrestling ring in the middle, of course, that's the first time I ever saw him. I remember thinking, well, the guy's in shape, and he looks confident. My perception is he knows how to wrestle, so this should be a good match. We go in the ring. He gets really, really unnecessarily stiff, tight, vice-like at the beginning. I said, okay, well, I know what I have to do. Backed him over the top rope. Hit him hard. And it made noise. It wasn't done to make noise, but it made noise enough that it popped and echoed around Chicago's International Amphitheater, which is a very famous building and quite a large arena. He looked at me like this. He was in shock. He was in disbelief. He could not believe that I just did that to him. But he loosened up, and then we had a good match, except he got vice-like again. And I said, gee, the guy doesn't learn, does he? I backed him over the top rope. I hit him harder this time, pretty much as hard as I could without breaking something, without doing harm. I mean, physical harm. I mean, may have left a bruise or something on him, but I hit him hard. For the whole rest of the match, he had this jaw drop, strange look of total, utter disbelief. Match was good. I'm going back to the dressing room. And as I get closer to the dressing room, I see there's Crusher, there's Ox Baker, there's Harley Race, there's Bobby Heenan. There's all these amazing superstar legends there, Horst Hoffman, Baron von Raschke, etc. And I assumed they would be in the dressing room, but they're not. They're out there at the outside the dressing room on the various levels of stairs, and they have all watched my match. And see I see they're doing like this, like snickering and trying to cover it. I see a couple laughing, and everybody else is smiling. I said, "Wow, I never thought that these legendary characters would come out and watch me wrestle, but I don't know why they're laughing, because there's no wardrobe malfunction. There's nothing weird about me as far as I can tell." So I went into the dressing room, just not understanding. There's Stan Kowalski, the guy who told me about Vasiri. And he's like laughing, but he's like rolling on the floor laughing. And he says, "I thought they'd bring you back on a stretcher, kid. Do you know who that was? You just wrestled Khosrow Vasiri, personal bodyguard. He was a personal bodyguard to the Shah of Iran. He is a gold medal winner in the Olympics. He is one of the toughest SOBs on the planet. I thought they'd bring you back on a stretcher." So I looked at Stan and said, "In other words, welcome to the AWA?" He says, "Welcome to the AWA, kid. Here's the kicker. Khosrow Vasiri and I had total respect for each other for quite a while after that. He never knew how good, or he never knew my level of competency in the ring. The reality is, he could have twisted me into a pretzel or worse at any time he chose. However, because I stood up to him, we developed that wonderful rapport. 2 years later, or maybe more, I was telling that story to Bill Apter, and Bill Apter ended up interviewing the Iron Sheik. Khosrow Vasiri became the Iron Sheik. So he was interviewing the Iron Sheik at some event. And I was in there, and I sat down to listen to the interview. And he says, Riddle, where's Rock? Ruck, would you come up and tell that story?" So I came up and saw Sheiky, and I told the story in front of him and watched his face. That was the first time he knew for sure that he was way out of my league as far as experience and ability to twist someone in half. So he's gone now. I miss him very much. He became a very good friend. So
Yeah.
Now here's the reality also, that if those people who approach the wrestling business, if you approach it with respect, I'll just use myself as an example, because I help train at certain places, and I'll go around to different promotions and do seminars and trainings and what have you. If you come in the ring with a bad attitude, let's say that you're one of the students at this school, or you're one of the newer wrestlers, you come in with a bad attitude, that attitude will be adjusted by the time you leave, because that's not the place. You want to show me how good you are? You don't have to hurt me to show me how good you are. So
Yeah.
now if you come in with respect, let's say that I could twist many of these people into pretzels. I could hurt them permanently. I have the ability, not that I ever would. But someone comes in, they have respect for me, they wipe their feet before they walk into that sacred ground of the squared circle, the professional wrestling ring. Just like if you go into a dojo, you bow before and take your shoes off before you go on the mat. Same thing with professional wrestling. If I see someone in training, for example, or seminar I'm doing, and I'm having people come in the ring to be evaluated, they don't wipe their feet, I take that as a direct insult. In fact, I remember it's not too many months back, I'm doing a training, and I said, "Okay, you two, come in the ring." No, I think I called one person in. I said, "Come on in the ring." He came in the ring. I said, Get out of the ring. When you can come back as a professional, let me know. Right now, I don't want you in here." Because he had did not show respect. He did not get it. It took him a while. He says, "Oh, didn't wipe my feet." Yeah, I know at least one wrestler who died of some sort of blood poisoning because of a mat burn he got from a dirty ring. So come on, show some respect, guys. And the other thing that, and this will sort of answer one of the questions that you had before in a different way. When I'm doing training, a lot of times what I will do is this. I've got all of the students, and many of these students have wrestled professionally for a few years, but they're training. You're a beginner once, you're a student forever. Very, very good philosophy. And otherwise, I'm already perfect. Well, in that case, if you are, there are degrees of perfection, and you have a ways that you can still go. So I would have everybody around the ring as close as they could get to it without being in it. And I would say, I want you to watch this. Here's the scenario. You've never seen me before. You've never seen the opponent before. One at a time, they're going to come in the ring. We're going to circle and then tie up, and we may not even get to tie up. Come in the ring, circle, and then I'll say, stop. I'll ask them. I'll say, tell me about this guy. Based on what you've just seen, based on those 7 or 8 or 9 seconds. How good is he? Is he intimidated by me? Is he going to give me a run for my money? Is this going to be a really good match? Is this someone, etc., who has a great wrestling background? Does he have confidence? And right then, if they say, well, no, he's like intimidated by you. He's afraid of you. I say, okay, do you want to watch the match? And generally it would be, no. But then we get someone, and I would say, will this person give me a great match? Can this person potentially beat me based on these 8 seconds? Is this person professional? Is this person going to be aggressive, etc.? It's amazing. Once the people understand and they can allow those feelings to project. It's just like the acting business. If I turn down 2 to 3 roles a month because I have so many producer friends, but every once in a while I will do one. There was a red carpet world premiere at the Chinese Theater. When was that? Friday. Had a little part in that one. The one I did before that, you'll find the what do you call it? The trailers. I forgot trailers. Wow. No, this is not sleep deprivation expressing itself. But I'm in the trailers, and I've got top billing over Eric Roberts, who is an Academy Award nominated actor, and he had to give his consent for me to do that. He had no problem with it. He says, yeah, Rock should have top billing. Whoa, pretty cool. But if I'm doing something like that, if I'm playing a bad guy or a good guy or a killer or a victim, I totally believe that's what is going on. Everything is real. If I don't believe it as the actor, the fans who come to the motion picture theater won't believe it either. Oh, he's acting. If I ever say, well, let's see if I can fool the audience into thinking that I'm going to shoot this guy. No, you can't fool them. In your mind, you're either going to shoot the guy or you're not. And that's, it's like in the wrestling business. Watch me. And there's no doubt. No one's going to doubt. I'll give it to you this way instead of using myself. Johnny Valentine, one of the toughest people ever in the professional wrestling ring, and he said this. This is as exact a quote as I can make it. He said, I may not be able to convince you that professional wrestling is real, but by God, I can convince you that I am. He's been dead for a number of years. I never wrestled him. I got to know him in the dressing room. I never wrestled him. Now, even when I think of Johnny Valentine, it's almost like almost a fear, a little, no, not fear, apprehension of thinking about going into the ring if that were possible, with Johnny Valentine. Greg Valentine, I was in the ring with him many, many, many times, so it's not like his dad. Wow. Anyway, what's next?
Have you ever wrestled or done anything in Wisconsin before?
I think so. I think that, see, now I can take my earphones out because that only prevents me from hearing you. But for the studio, that would be great. Um, as I do that. Wisconsin. Give me some city. Green Bay, right? Is in
Yes.
Wisconsin. Okay, I'll give you a Green Bay story. I had just finished wrestling Kazuo Basiri, the Iron Sheik. Then I went toward Minneapolis. I ended up finding a place to stay. One of the first matches after I found the place was Green Bay, Wisconsin. It was a blizzard. There was a blizzard going on. I'm going to turn this camera away from me up here so I'll know that I'm not looking at that camera, but I'm looking at the phone. So there was a blizzard. And it was like with wind chill, it's 40 degrees below. And I looked at the map and I said, oh, because the big guys say, oh, you take this road, you take this road. And it went like down and around and came back up at that point. I said, well, here's a road that goes straight across, goes through a national forest. That's nice. I'll take that one. If I'm lucky, there won't be anybody on that road. And I was right. There was no one on the road. I remember stopping because there's no restrooms, no nothing, but I decided to stop, and I just stopped in the middle of the road. The only tire tracks were the ones that I left, and I watched these 2, maybe 3 deer that were in the road. I said, oh, that's cool. That's cool. I went to Green Bay. I got there early. I always get places early. And I said, man, it's snowing so hard and there's so much on the ground. And this is not going to be a good payoff at all. This is, what a long trip, etc. When I went in, went directly in, backward to the dressing room, didn't look out to the audience. When I did look out at the audience, I was amazed. Sold out. This whole place had standing room only, and they probably sold some of the standing room.
Oh, wow.
I said, my gosh, in the middle of a blizzard with wind chill of minus 40 Fahrenheit, and they sold this place out. I think I'm going to like wrestling here. Now, when I told, and then I went back through the national forest, and I told the boys about it. I think people know boys. Boys means professional wrestlers. It's a term of endearment. Doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the nationality, nothing. We're all the boys. It's, again, a term of endearment. Ladies are boys. Hey, she's one of the boys. Okay, great, fantastic. But as I was talking about, I said, why didn't you guys go through the national forest? And they said, there's a very good reason. There's a very good reason you did not see anyone else out there. If you break down there, you will freeze to death very quickly, and there is no help coming. I said, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. So, and they said, take one of those big candles with you at the very least, no matter where you go, and take some emergency supplies. And I think ever since then I have.
Oh, wow.
If
Yeah,
I were to break down, go ahead.
I only live 45 minutes away from Green Bay.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, all I know of it is that big arena, whatever it was called, and how it was totally full. And I did not think that anyone would go out of their home in such weather. But that's how much they love professional wrestling. And I understand that. Absolutely.
Was it the Lambeau Field or the Rush Center?
I don't remember. I don't know. I'll tell you what, during most of the time that I was wrestling consistently, which means a lot of times 10 matches per week, which would mean every night's normal, or was at that point. Then I'd do a Saturday morning live television show at 11, something like in Pensacola, Florida. Then go to Dothan, Alabama in the afternoon, I think, for a 2 o'clock live television show, and then some other town for that night. So there's 3 matches in one day. Sometimes there would be, on a Sunday, there would be a matinee, and then a regular house match that night, in an arena. So for a long, long time, I averaged 10 matches per week. Really, really interesting. What was the question? I just lost it. You can't remember.
If you ever
But
wrestled or done anything in Wisconsin.
yeah, after that, yeah. Oh, I know why I was telling you this story. Because about every week or 10 days, they would give us a little piece of paper about like this size, but just one piece of paper. And it would say on there the name, the date, the name of the town. That's all. January 1st, Duluth, Minnesota. January 2nd, Bismarck, whatever it happens to be. Minneapolis, Chicago. Never would it say, I never had any that said, this is who your opponent is going to be. This is the name of the building. This is what time we expect you to be there. No, they would just hand me a booking slip, and I would say, okay, I'm going to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama tonight. Okay, never been there before. Look at my maps. Yes, it used to be maps. Don't know what I would do if I had to use maps again. Maybe I still could. But I would go to the town. I would look for posters, and I would see, usually I would see Rock Riddle versus whomever. Luthez, Rock Riddle versus Pat Patterson, Rock Riddle versus Andre the Giant. And on the poster would be the name of the building and a lot of times the address. But otherwise, I would ask at a service station, a gas station, I would say, yeah, gas stations used to be service stations. They used to provide service. They would check the air in your tires. They would check the oil. They would wash your windows. They would fill your gas up. They would do all these sort of things. Wow, different times. And I would show up at the arena. If I ever went and I did not see a poster, I thought, oh, this is not good. I should have seen like 25 posters by now. But then I would go into a gas station and say, where's the wrestling tonight? If they said, I don't know that if there is any, I would say, oh, bad job of promoting. But generally, they would say it's going to be at this building. I said, how do I get there? And maybe take a few notes, and I would go there. And that's what we did. Never did pay much attention to who we were wrestling. We were doing what we wanted to do. We were living our dream. And I wrestled so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and remembered not a whole lot of names. I remember several years ago, someone said, Rock, did you ever wrestle Jimmy Superfly Snuka? And I said, well, I've wrestled hundreds and hundreds of people whose names I don't know, and we never thought it was a big deal to keep up with that and write everything down. But Snuka has such a name, or had such a name at that point. I said, I probably would have remembered him, so if I had to give you a yes or no, I'd say no, I never did. 3 weeks later at my office, southwest corner of Sunset and Wilcox in Hollywood, California, although I'm coming to you now from Redlands, California, from my studio/office here. Let's see, I just lost my train of thought. Okay.
Talking about Jimmy Snuka.
Yes, so at my office, 3 weeks later, I had a delivery, and it was a DVD, and I put it, and it said Cow Palace, San Francisco Cow Palace, and it had a date on it, which I don't remember. But I put it in my DVD player, and I said, okay, there's Rock Riddle versus Jimmy Superfly Snuka at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. So I probably wrestled him a dozen times, and I didn't remember a single one of them. So that's the way it went. It was Terry Funk, who long time ago, he says, someday they're all going to look at us like we're rock stars. And we said, sure, Terry. But that's what happened. And now you take a look at these wrestling conventions, and 450 people who paid however much money are lined up to get autographs, lined up to get photographs. And now just talking about the old days and doing like what we're doing has meaning again. That's why with the Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe and JBL, that's why their show is doing well, because they're talking about, they're telling stories. Wow, there we have the name again. They're telling stories, and what people want to see are stories, as opposed to there's a certain television shows. I watch very, very little television. I don't like television. Um, it, but there's one in particular that when I'm visiting a certain person, this show is on a lot. And it's propaganda. It's like, oh my gosh, this show has a real leaning extreme in one direction agenda. And gosh, it's like they're beating me over the head with it. And is there a story here? This seems like, well, there's a very loose story, but then they do 20 minutes of propaganda and psyops and things like that. If they just told a story, it would be so much more interesting. So I love stories, love to watch something that tells a story, beginning, middle, end, has a purpose, makes me feel like I just invested 30 minutes or an hour of my time in a good way. I learned something. I came back with something. I was at the, gosh, I was at the main big theater in Hollywood, Cinerama Dome. That's what it was called, Cinerama Dome. I was there when Star Wars, the original movie Star Wars, came out. I was sitting in the auditorium and in the theater, and I was paying attention to the people. And I said, this movie is affecting these people. They don't know it consciously, but it's affecting them. I talked to one guy in my office who, the first day that it opened, he had seen it like 4 times the first day, and he said he's going to go back, and it's one of the greatest movies ever. I asked him, I said, Star Wars, Star Wars, the movie, was the acting exceptional? He said, well, no, not really. I said, okay. Was it like the special effects? Is that what made you really like it? He said, no, well, they were good, but, there's a bunch of movies or several movies that have really good special effects. I said, was it the fact that it was like a Western in space? They shoot them up. Well, I'm not sure. I said, so you think this is one of the greatest movies, but you can't tell me why. He said, well, I don't know. I said, I'll tell you why. Because when you left the theater each time, you felt better. You felt empowered. You felt good. You felt like, trust the force, trust the energy. This amazing energy can flow through you. You have more power than you thought. I said, that's why you did it. And then I saw one of the sequels. I believe it was The Empire Strikes Back. As I'm sitting there, this little Yoda is talking to Luke Skywalker, who has his, whatever that craft is, stuck in the bog. And he can't get it out. And Yoda is telling him how he could telekinetically bring that up. And Skywalker says, I'm trying. Little Yoda says, no, try, do. And I said, holy mackerel, they're going to be that blatant about it? I looked around the theater. I said, a few people consciously got it. Most people got it subconsciously. But wow, they're getting this, and until it wears off, for the next few hours, they're going to feel much better about themselves. Anyway, what's next?
If now in your career you got asked to return to the NWA to make like a special appearance or for like a Legends Night, one more match, run backstage, or a manager or anything else, would you take that one-time offer?
It depends. I'm very good at negotiating, so I would negotiate on my own behalf, and I would make it fair on both sides, and I would help to fill. I would take it upon myself. I would do a press release. I would take it upon myself to help fill that arena. And yeah, most likely. The last match, actual match I did was 5 years ago. I was asked if I wanted to do one in 2024 in July in, oh gosh, Waterloo, Iowa at the Hall of Fame. I said, I'm open to the idea, and if we go through with it, yes, that gives me a lot of time to get back in the shape I would like to be, because I need excuses to take the time that I need to really put this body back where I can display it and feel good about it. I said, it has to be some legend. I don't want to wrestle. They said, what about this guy? He's a big deal. I said, yeah, he's a big deal locally. He's a nice guy. He's not a legend. And, you know, it would be fun to wrestle him, but give me somebody else. Give me someone who has a big name. Let's see, who would we do? And we started naming people. And I said, Dan Severn, the Beast. I said, I've already talked to him about wrestling. I said, you interested in bringing him in? In other words, are you, Mr. Promoter, interested in putting up the money? He says, yeah, we can make that happen. I said, who else do you have in mind? Chavo Guerrero, Chavito, as I called him. I said, Chavo, I wrestled most of the people in the family, including even when I was very young, starting out, and his grandfather, Gory Guerrero, was doing his last few matches. I even wrestled him. And I said, Chavo, I have it on tape, on film, him saying, I am very expensive. I don't do anything for free. I would wrestle Rock Riddle for free. Now, he won't, because they will pay him. And we came up with other names. What about, they said, they said, what about Dustin Rhodes? I said, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be a good
Cody,
match.
Justin, either one of them would love it. But give me someone who has a big name like that and enough time, and yeah, we'll do another match. It never gets out of your blood. Never, never, never. Anything else?
So that was kind of like a spoiler.
Yeah, maybe, but I haven't decided yet. I'll tell you one thing that was really fun. And as far as philosophy and the way to feel and how to understand that you're in complete control and that kind of thing. And even though we are told we are all supposed to be victims, wow, sounds like people are paying attention online and listening and paying it, and the media is telling them telling us we're all supposed to be victims. It's not my fault that I'm not worth $83 million. It's their fault. That group over there, we should not like them. We should do like this, because as long as we're doing like this, we can be easily controlled. And things are not about what you think they're about. It's all about control by the people who want to control us. I love doing this. I have friends of every ethnicity. And if there's people, when I'm doing seminars and things like that, I will pick out the person who has the darkest skin. And I will say, would you help me to make a point? And I say, and we'll be talking about those who want to tell us that we're victims and stuff, and put us at each other's throat and tell us that we're enemies. I said, I want to show you what terrifies them. Will you work with me for a moment? And the person will say, sure. I'll put my hand down, say, shake hands. I shake hands and put my other hand. I said, this terrifies them. We're not supposed to get along, you know. And I don't know what to tell you there. I think I was probably going for another point and just totally lost it, because now I'm reliving things as I say them, and I'm reliving that particular one. We are not victims. We are the masters of our own fate. The fact is, I feel, rules are not made for me, they're made for other people. And if there's a piece of tape that says do not cross, if I need to be on the other side of that tape, it's only a piece of tape.
Yeah.
Are you willing to take the responsibility and the consequences that may happen if you cross there? Yeah, fine. I also, oh my gosh, I'm a private pilot, haven't flown for a while. Um, I can tell you stories about my aircraft. I can tell you all sorts of stories about that. I'm a competitive shooter. I'm a firearms instructor. That's something else that's pretty interesting. And everything goes together. I remember when I first started taking classes as in firearms from true professionals. They said, "My gosh, Rock, you're really good. How have you been doing this all your life?" No. I said, well, how are you learning all this so fast? I said, I was a professional wrestler. I know the stances. I know balance. I know resistance. I know all this stuff. So now I shoot competitively and stuff like that. So what else do you want to know before we wrap this thing up? Otherwise, we'll go just keep going. And I've got the other things. I know there's nothing as important as this, but I have other things that I need to do tonight. So what else do you have for me?
So I'll ask you two more questions. So, what is one thing you would tell your fans?
Concerning what? You mean one thing that
Like,
I would say to the fans
yeah,
that I
like
haven't already said
for like
today?
them like supporting you and being here for as long as they've been and everything.
Well, the the wrestler in me says I don't care. I don't have any fans. I don't care whether my fans like me or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. If you don't like me, I don't care. But I will. I've said this in the ring. When people are booing me and throwing things, I'll take the microphone and I'll say whatever I'm going to say, but I'll add, and I got your money in my pocket. Yeah. You money, you paid to come. You paid to see me. I didn't pay to see you. I don't need your approval. So that's sort of the attitude, and there's still that is so close under my skin that sometimes I have to. Oh no, no, Rock, don't be confrontational here. Don't take the bait. Lead. Don't push. Walk away. Okay, I can walk away. It takes a better man, a more courageous person to walk away than to make a point. Okay, bye. Oh, stupid. In the ring, that's okay. Otherwise, now as things have changed, whoo, like kids in school, the bullies are picking on this kid, and the kid fights back, and the kid gets suspended, gets expelled from school. He was the victim. He's fighting back. What do you want him to do? Stand there and get hit? Well, yes, that's the way we have to do things now. We don't want to encourage. Everybody's equally to blame. Yeah, right. Oh, and we give participation trophies also because there are no winners and losers. Yeah, right. Prepare those kids for the real world by telling them that it's okay. They can answer virtually every question wrong on a test and they'll still be passed. Because we wouldn't want to hurt the kids' feelings. No, hurt the kids' feelings. Get that person ready for the real world. Teach them to be strong. Don't teach them to be a wimp. Anyway, that's some of my feelings. So I would say to fans or anybody else who wanted to listen, who were seeking a response from me. Otherwise, I don't give stuff. I don't say, I got to go over and hand this person this flyer and tell this person why they should vote for this person or why they should join this church or why they should join this group, or whatever it happens to be. No. If they're open, if they want to hear something, then I'll give them advice.
Yeah.
Someone still smokes cigarettes. Oh my gosh! And they say they want to stop, but they're like addicted. Okay, you want some advice? Great. Don't stop for yourself. Stop for the people, the family members, and the people who care about you. Otherwise, you are a selfish, really selfish person. You're going to take 10 to 15 years of life away from those people. And before that, before you die that much early and the suffering, they will watch that you suffer. They will see you in the hospital with tubes in you as you as you're on oxygen and you still can't breathe because you were so selfish that you would not do this for your family, for your loved ones, etc. So I've said that to people, and I've gotten letters back saying thank you. That was the last when I saw you and you told me that, and you said no, throw the pack away. I did, and I haven't smoked since, and I wanted to thank you. I said sure, my pleasure, my pleasure. I'm going to take
Yeah.
drugs because everything is so tough in life. No, you don't escape. You if you use something to artificially escape, well, the problems, the challenges are still going to be there. And don't you realize challenges are part of what makes life worth living? Yep.
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on and on and on and on, but okay, give me a final question or two and let's wrap this up. What do you say?
All right. So my final question
Yes, sir.
is, do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
Yes. It has to be your passion. There has to be no other option. If there's another option, if there's a plan B, you will become plan B. If it's really your passion, if it's really what you want to do, don't allow anyone to ever talk you out of it. Just like when they were laughing at me and I laughed at them because they didn't understand. This is not a dream. This is a commitment. This is reality. There is no question. There is no plan B. Failure is not an option. Go to a really, really good professional wrestling school. It doesn't matter if you have to drive 2 or 3 hours once or twice a week. You go to some place where the person or persons who are teaching are hopefully retired major stars who totally understand this business. If you go to study with someone whose name is, we'll just make up a name, John Ingleheimer, and my name's John Ingleheimer, and I tried out for WWE one time, and and I probably should have made it, but yeah, I know a lot about the wrestling business. You lie, you don't know anything. You just told us that you failed. Now you're going to teach us how to do what you do and expect us to succeed. It's like I could teach you brain surgery. Yep. I could charge you $1,000 a month, teach you brain surgery. The fact is, I've never operated on a live human being. I've never cut up a corpse. In biology class, when we were supposed to cut the frog, I skipped the class because I didn't want to cut anything. But I could still charge you $1,000 a month to teach you how to be a brain surgeon. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. So look at the people who are running the school, see their passion that they have. They should be as passionate about teaching you as you are about learning. They
Yeah.
should have to, if I'm the instructor, I should have to remind you every time. We are overtime. We really I've got to turn the lights out. Okay, walk with me. We're going to walk to the door. And every time I, as the instructor, would go to unlock the building, there you are. You get there before I am. You're the first person to be there, the last one to leave. You have wonderful questions, and you are there to put in the effort, put in the time. You're studying the tapes you're studying the video. What do we call it anymore? It's not videotape. It's not film anymore. You're studying the recordings
Yeah.
of the greatest professional wrestlers ever. Now we have something that YouTube, for example, and you can find a lot of this stuff. When I was a little kid, I said, someday there's going to be a new invention, and it's going to be called AKK, and that stands for All Known Knowledge. And we have it now. It's called the Internet. A lot of misinformation, a lot of incorrect stuff, so never take anything at face value, but there you go. Uh, realize that you are displaying, your body is on display. You want to be in the gym, you want to work out, you want to get in really good shape. I would suggest this also. In high school, if they have it, certainly in college, or if there's a community college, they usually have courses in judo. Take judo, take jiu-jitsu. Judo is going to help you in the ring. Jiu-jitsu is going to help you in the ring. They're both going to help you in life. And
Yeah.
take take a class in stunts and tumbling. That's basic gymnastics. The judo class is going to teach you how to fall. And it's the same way that a good instructor is going to show you in class. And it's also different. It's the same and it's different. One of the things in judo class is one of the first things you learn how to fall, and you're going to do a front shoulder roll. Okay. Then they're going to put, once you are good at that, you do it to the left, you do it to the right, same as in the wrestling business. Then they're going to put someone in front of you on his hands and knees. Now you're going to go over that person doing the shoulder roll on both sides. Then they're going to put two people side by side, and then three, and then four, and then five. And in judo, in the professional wrestling ring, you can't get a real long diving front shoulder roll because the ring is not big enough. In judo class, you can see how many people you can go over. You could probably, within a relatively short period of time, you'll be going over 6 or 7 people, and you're flying through the air. You're becoming really confident. You know how to fall. Now, if you ever get knocked down or you slip on the ice, you're carrying groceries, you slip on the ice, you know how to fall. Boom! Slap the mat. Slap the ice in this case. Protect your back, protect your head, chin on chest, all the stuff that you need to know. I would also say do promos. Put yourself on videotape in class, put yourself on videotape doing promos, even if it's at your own home, probably better there. And then watch those videos and see, and be really honest. Be blatantly and brutally honest with yourself. And you say, could I have done that better? Could I have done that fireman's carry better? What should I have gone in deeper on it? Okay, I'm going to ask the coach at the wrestling school. I'm going to ask him, but I think I probably should have gone in deeper. Okay, and as I'm doing the promos, how good am I? Did I get across the message? Was this promo a true call to action? In other words, was it good enough that it would actually cause people to do what they needed to do, which was go online and click and buy the ticket? So that's a little bit of advice I would give you. Also, believe in yourself. As you progress, what you will discover, you may not ever know it. So I'll tell it to you now. Most people who have the passion are better than they think they are. It's very rewarding for me to have major superstar people in the business who talk about me. Pat Patterson, I'll give you just one example. Several years ago, in 2007, Pat Patterson presented me with an award in Las Vegas. But one of the things he did at that 3-day annual event was he introduced me to some people in the business whom I had not met. And he says, this is Rock Riddle, the original Mr. Wonderful professional wrestling. I had some of the best matches of my career with this man. And I thought it was going to be a joke, and I was waiting for the punchline, but it was actually real. One of the best things that ever been said. On that latest Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, I read one of the comments on there, and I said, whoa. In fact, someone asked me, they said, did you write that? I said, no, but that's such an incredibly great compliment. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but if anyone wants to know, they can go there and take a look. Okay. I am ready to wrap. What about you?
Yeah.
I'm ready to wrap this up. Unless do you have a final burning question that you would like to ask?
Well, usually that advice question is my final question.
That was your final question.
Yes.
Very good. So, It is. Now you can tell everyone, Rock Riddle accepted and went on for over 2.5 hours, the longest show that they've done on Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw. And then he said, what more is there? Where do I go from here? How can I make this even better? And that's why he ended up on your show. Sound good?
Yeah.
Take care,
Yes.
sir. I am out of here. It's been nice talking with you. For all the people who are watching, all the hundreds of thousands or millions of people who are watching either live or will be watching later, rockriddle.info, rockriddle.info. Send me money.
Yeah. And thank you for
Thank
taking your time out to do this.